Hi, thank you so much. I want to begin with gratitude. I'm really grateful to be here to get the chance to speak with you. We live in a world that is super saturated with information, and for you to take the time to actually listen to me is a great gift, and so I want to say thank you for that. I'm going to talk for just a little under 15 minutes. I'm going to start with some ideas that I'm going to talk about kind of my personal life and how they came to happen, and then I'm going to talk about implementation, because what I'm dealing with is not just an idea, but something that can actually happen. The library at Salamanca, one of the world's great universities. I love universities. I was born when my parents were in university. I worked hard to get to university. When I have time off, I travel to other universities. They are the engine of ideas in our society. They feed into every aspect of what we do. I'm not here to tell you that everybody should go to university, but if the university is doing its job, it's feeding everything that you do in your world. And so if we can do something with university, if we can retool university and make university for the 21st century, it should help everyone. It should fix a whole series of things. So how might we go about that? Well, I've got a bit of a solution. I'm going to argue today that I can fix all universities in a way that will make money, be simple to implement, and is popular with students. And not only do I have this idea going, we're already doing it. So, what's the solution? Fluff and baskets. Now already you're saying, of course, fluff and baskets. We've been thinking this for years. But for those of you that are not with us in the fluff and basket camp, I'm going to take a little bit of time to explain it to you. What might we need to change inside of university? How could we change something that's so large and so dynamic? We go and we become engineers and doctors and lawyers and dancers and political scientists. But what is it that we all share? We all share a certain operating system that we've been running under for generations. And it did great work for us, but it is now defunct and it needs to be replaced. I believe that it is actually causing harm. And I've been involved in that as well, but I have seen the light through a series of things, and that's the type of change that I want to talk about. What we need to get rid of is critical thinking. Critical thinking is something that we have said we should have in the university as a foundational policy. Send me your kid, and what do I tell you when I want you to come and take an English degree? Oh, we'll teach him to be a critical thinker. Send me your daughter. Oh, I'll teach her to be a critical thinker while she does political science. We'll do critical thought. What was critical thought? It was a certain type of application of reason that we used to evolve, to try and get along, to organize ourselves, to make relations inside of organizations work well, but I believe it's now become exhausted. It worked really well in the 19th century when everybody read a few dozen books in a lifetime. It was a little bit threadbare once we got into the 20th century. It needs to be thrown into the recycling bin, honorably, but into the recycling bin now because it is completely finished. Now why? What is so wrong with critical thinking? Because I'm assuming all of you trained in schools that told you to be critical thinkers. It's because it turns us into martial artists of the mind. Martial arts are another fascination of mine, and just bear with me while I sort of take you through this example. What happens is if you come and you want to learn martial arts, I will teach you to stand in a pretty good position, and then when information comes in, information here being a punch, I go boom. I learn how to block that, and I go boom, and I do that all day, boom. And I do that 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 100,000 times, until I become expert at having any type of information come in, I can stop it. Well, this is what we do in university as well. We've taught people to take in information, attack it, find weakness, and go after it. It's a very linear and a very violent way to think about ideas. Want some evidence? The highest degree that you can get at university, the PhD, the final thing you have to do? A defense. You go into a room and some serious black belts of knowledge come in and attack you. I want to replace it with loving thinking. I want to replace it with loving thinking, open thinking. Now this is not pop psychology, my friends. Loving thinking is far more robust and will require more of you than the simplistic, linear, critical model. I'm asking you to step into information. Am I over my line? I'm not. Thank goodness. What does it mean? It's contributory dialogue. It's yes and. In the acting world, what we do is we say someone comes onto the stage and says something, and I say yes and. I offer something else. We contribute. We bring ideas together and let the best ideas sift up to the surface. We don't spend all of the time breaking your argument down and attacking you, breaking this argument down and attacking you, trying to make an argument that is, indefensible, made of titanium and things like that. We need something that's bigger. Why? Because this is what happened to me when I was doing critical thinking. I was a kid, I loved stories. Absolutely loved them. I wanted to work with stories in any way I could. And so I set off and I did that in a variety of ways. In bands, I'd write songs and wrote stories of my own to get published, and poems, you name it. But I was in love with university, and so I figured, well, I should go off to university and pursue stories there. And I did. And what I did was I became an English professor. And what happens when you become an English professor, or at least me, I'm sure there's lots of excited English professors, but for me, what happened was I started reading more and more criticism and less story. More and more criticism, less and less story. Then I start writing criticism, traveling to faraway lands to speak about criticism, and then finally, in what I must apologize to you, teaching you or your kids criticism. And we would sit in rooms where you would rarely hear a poem anymore, you'd just hear criticism. How did I wake up? I met this guy. He was doing the same thing as me, same haircut. He's the head of the drama department. His name's Clem Martini. He works in a university. He works as an administrator, but he wasn't all sort of sad like I was with my little skeleton there. The reason I believe is, and this is just a theory, is that he was actually writing stories. He's a storyteller. He writes plays and movies and things like that, and so he seemed much more dynamic. But the reason that I've got Clem's slide in here is because he did something really quite drastic, quite dynamic, that is kind of at the heart of why I'm here. He decided with a group of people that are called the Teaching and Learning Center at the University of Calgary to listen to what students had been saying. In order to do that, what was done is that there were a series of surveys that were done all through the United States, all through Canada, and then separately on the independent campuses that you would work on. And these people were saying that they wanted certain types of things. Now, this is a particularly good time to listen to students, because I've been teaching university students for 10 years, and I can tell you they're smarter now than they've ever been, and they are at the bleeding edge of information. So if you walk into a classroom thinking that you're schlocking along that 19th century critical thinking, they're never going to look up from their portable device, and you know what? They probably shouldn't. Because we need to make a big change. We need to make a big change. What the students wanted was they wanted something dynamic. They wanted to be able to get in a room with a bunch of people from different backgrounds and discuss ideas that were of interest today. That's what they wanted, okay? So what they decided is we're going to do that. We're going to try and make that work. We've got to find somebody crazy enough to take on this project and build some courses and see if the students will come to them. And look what happens to me. Now I'm leading the way. No longer lying on the ground with skeletons. I'm excited, and we built a couple of pilot courses. One on creativity. I'm sure all of you know, TEDsters know for sure that we'll be talking about creativity for decades now. And the other one was story. It's back. I was happy again. And the idea was that we were to try and get 40 students interested from across the campus to take them, and if that worked, then they would allow them to run. They weren't in the calendar, there was no advertising or anything. You really just had to sort of find your way to them. We put them together and we tried to get 40 students in order to get into each of these classes so that they would run. Yeah? Okay, so what happens? Well, it worked out pretty well. We got our 40 students early on, and we felt like we could continue to grow. And so what we did was I tried to go and find the biggest room that I could find. And strangely enough, it was a 1950s phone booth. No, it was a room that had 244 seats. And with those 244 seats, we filled them, and we had a wait list. And in the second class, we filled them, and we had a wait list. And who was in there? Students from every single faculty on campus, students from around the world. And what were we talking about? Issues about creativity. How does it apply in business, in law, in biochem, in engineering, in dance? How do we make this work? With this new model that I'd like us to try. I don't allow what's called hating. I have a no haters policy. And what that means is if you say something from the audience, some bitter SOB is not allowed to then give you their witty, acidy retort that collapses your argument and leaves nothing for the group. It has to be contributive. The idea comes and I say, oh yes, I hear your idea. Here is mine. And the ideas begin to build. This is open source thinking, open idea, open heart thinking. So, I had a success, why not go crazier? Okay, I will. I come up with 2 more courses, love and happiness. Fantastic. Why wouldn't you want to study love and happiness? Well, there were a few people that felt that I'd kind of lost my mind at this point. But I must say, I had to fight against a lot of faculty and a bunch of students. I must say that the heads of the university, the provost, the dean, my chair, they thought it was a great idea. So I wasn't fighting the man. I was fighting culture. And this is a thing that I want your help with. We put these courses together, and we ran the other ones as well. And so now what we had this year were creativity and story packed, and love and happiness packed. So clearly we've got something going on, and we had huge wait lists. But let's get back to the definitions of these things. Fluff, where does it come from? End of the first year, story class. We always have lots of debate in the class. It's what it's about. Student stands up, and she's really got some great ideas. She's very, very sort of exercised, and she starts and says, I know that this is just a fluff class, but this has been the greatest course I've taken in my whole degree, and this is the last year of my degree. Oh, heartbreak. I feel badly for her. Fluff, I assume, means light. So I just want to say, in my class, which is a 200 level class, you have 4 500-word essays and a 2,000-word essay and 2 tests. That's more than essay-based courses in departments that you would recognize at the 400 level. Not only that, I don't have an upper limit. And 90% of my students exceed the upper limit, exceed the required amount by 30% at least, and 79% of my students do double the work they're required. Baskets. This year, we do love, and it's tremendous. And a couple of my sort of students get so excited about the love course that what they're going to do is they're going to go out and they're going to build a love experiment and write up all kinds of stuff as their way of doing the final love class. So that's what they do. And they set up in the university center. And a young man comes up and says, what are you doing? And they say what they're doing. They say they're doing this for the love class. And he mocks them. He says, oh, love class. What's the prereq for that? Basket weaving? Ha, 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 ha. Well, this is a huge moment because basket weaving, as I'm sure you know, you're good, smart people, basket weaving courses were introduced in universities in the United States in the late 60s as they changed their university structure. So the basket weaving joke is a 40-year-old joke. So now what we're looking at is a guy coming in who's anti-love, attacking these people with a 40-year-old joke. So it made me cranky, and I kind of wanted to make fun of them, but then I remembered these people, the students. I'm not doing my job. I'm not doing a very good job if somebody is attacking love and somebody is feeling they can use those 40-year-old jokes. You know what that is? That's that. That's critical thinking, right? Just look at what it is and attack. You don't learn any more from that. You look at it and you attack. There's no open to that. There's no what is this? How can I offer something to this conversation? It's no, I've got a 40-year-old joke. Not even a good joke, a 40-year-old joke. It's sad. We need to do better. The reason is we've brought people in to give them an operating system that no longer works, critical thinking. It's defunct. We need to drop it and move into loving thinking, which is an open and dynamic set of thought. Now, what I'd like you to do, if you can, is in your minds now reflect on any type of interaction you've had or any information you've gotten from, say, federal political parties in Canada and the US, your interaction with government agencies here, your work in business, your work in retail, your work in education. Have you found yourself stopping and saying, we need some more critical stuff here. If only people could be more critical. Or have you been saying, we need a bigger outlook here. Something's getting bigger. We're larger now. We need a way to work together, to embrace. We need open heart, open mind, open source, loving thinking. And we need to see it as the most complicated way to think, not that that angry monkey is the smart person on the campus. That's the transition that we've got to make. And it's easy. You just do it in one little optional course, and we change forcing people to do critical thought. So, I stop where I began in deep, deep gratitude to all of you for giving me this time. Thank you to the organizers, to the TED organization, and most particularly to my students who've taken this journey with me and who have taught me all these lessons. My love to you all.